If you thought you had already seen every side of Yulong and young Mei Mei, today will change that forever. In a world where every private moment can be turned into content, this couple did something almost impossible. They kept their biggest joy hidden from the spotlight for 6 whole months. And then, in one quiet studio live on air, they finally stepped forward. Not as superstars, not as icons, but as 2 first-time parents, gently introducing their twin daughters to the world. Stay with me because what happened next is one of the most moving, powerful moments we've ever seen in entertainment. This is Update X24H, and here is the story behind the twins reveal that stopped the internet. It began like any ordinary morning show. The program rundown looked simple. A short interview, a quick update on projects, a lighthearted chat. No special stage, no grand countdown, no fireworks. Just a sofa, soft lighting, and 2 empty seats. 30 minutes before the live broadcast, the station quietly changed one line in the script. Yulong and young Mei Mei special segment, extended time. No one in the audience knew why. There were no teasing trailers, no cryptic posts on social media. Just a feeling, a tiny whisper behind the scenes, that something was different today. The music faded. The host smiled into the camera. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Yulong and young Mei Mei." The studio clapped politely, and then the clapping stopped, because Yulong did not walk out alone. No one in the studio was prepared for what they were about to witness. On the schedule, it was just another special appearance by 2 of the most recognizable faces in the industry, Yulong and young Mei Mei. Crew members adjusted cameras, producers checked their notes, and the host ran through the same familiar lines. It was all routine, almost forgettable. Then the doors at the side of the set opened. Yulong entered first. There was nothing extravagant about him that morning. His suit was simple, his expression composed. Yet there was a weight in his gaze, a quiet purpose that did not quite match the idea of a light-hearted celebrity interview. He paused for a brief second as if measuring the room, then moved towards the sofa. A few steps behind him, young Mei Mei appeared. At first, all the cameras registered was the soft fabric of her dress and the careful, measured way she walked. Only when she stepped fully into the light did everyone see what she was holding. Cradled in her arms were not 1, but 2 tiny shapes, swaddled in pastel blankets. One blanket shifted slightly, revealing a small, delicate face peeking out with wide, unblinking eyes. The other bundle remained closer to her chest, pressed against the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. There was a visible change in the studio at that precise moment. Applause faltered and died away, replaced by a silence that felt almost sacred. Even those who had spent years working with celebrities, who believed they had seen everything, seemed to forget their positions for a second. The room was no longer just a set. It became a living snapshot of a family stepping into the open for the first time. Live, without warning, Yulong and young Mei Mei had revealed their twin daughters to the world. The host's first instinct was the same as the audience's, to ask how such a profound secret could be kept for so long. But before any question was spoken, there was a moment where the camera simply held the frame. 2 parents, 2 children, and an unspoken story resting in the gentle way they held them. When the questions finally came, they were not sharp or aggressive. They were soft, almost hesitant. The world had speculated endlessly over the last 6 months. Rumors had circulated about a relationship on the brink, a career slipping quietly away, contracts broken and offers drying up. What none of those headlines had considered was the possibility of a different kind of battle, one fought behind closed doors, in hospital corridors and hushed late-night conversations. Yulong explained in calm and measured tones that the twins had entered the world with hearts that needed more help than most. From the very beginning, their lives were marked not by photo shoots and celebrations, but by appointments, scans, and medical terminology no parent ever wants to learn. Each day brought a fragile sense of progress, always shadowed by uncertainty. Silence was not a strategy, it was a necessity. Stepping away from cameras was not an act of indifference towards their careers, but an act of loyalty towards their children. Mei Mei's absence from film sets and public events had nothing to do with professional decline and everything to do with recovery, both hers and theirs. Behind the rumors of disappearance was a woman healing from birth, knowing that stress could tip an already delicate balance. They stayed silent because the world can be loud, demanding, and unforgiving. Their daughters needed gentleness. Their home needed calm. And sometimes the most loving thing a person can do is to protect a story until the people inside it are strong enough to stand. For the audience, those 6 months had been a gap, a blank section in the timeline of two famous lives. For the family, they were the most densely packed days they had ever known. While strangers refreshed social media and searched for clues, something much quieter and far more important was taking shape behind closed doors. In their home, every room gradually rearranged itself around the needs of two small girls. A guest room became a sanctuary, with two cots placed side by side, as if their very placement announced that these two lives would always move in parallel. Walls once reserved for framed posters and achievements slowly filled with baby monitors, gentle night lights and shelves of tiny clothes carefully folded in pairs. Mornings did not begin with makeup chairs or script readings, but with the sound of small breaths and the occasional sharp cry that sent both parents fully awake in an instant. Afternoons were measured not by meetings but by feeding schedules, medication times and the small triumph of a nap that lasted a little longer than the day before. Nights were not glamorous. They were long broken into segments of soothing, rocking, checking and listening. There were no behind-the-scenes reels of those moments, no curated clips of bedtime routines, no sponsored posts about parenthood. Their private world was built from details too intimate to broadcast. The way one twin calmed more quickly when she could hear her sister nearby. The way Mei Mei watched over both cots even when exhaustion pressed her eyelids down. The way Yulong learned to recognize each daughter's cry as clearly as if it were a word. This was the part of the story that would never make it into statistics or charts. It was not recorded in ratings or reflected in trending lists. Yet it is here, in the unseen patience and the repetitive, almost invisible tasks of care, that their real work took place. While the public saw absence, the truth was that every moment was filled. As the interview moved from facts to feelings, something shifted not only in the way they spoke, but in the way they held themselves. It became clear that the twins had not simply joined their lives. They had redefined them. Yulong spoke about choices that once seemed simple and now felt infinitely heavier. Work offers that would have been accepted without hesitation were suddenly measured against nights in hospital wards and mornings filled with checkups. He found himself turning down opportunities that on paper looked perfect because they clashed with something more important. A medical appointment, a recovery milestone, a promised afternoon spent simply being present. He admitted that the twins had confronted him with a version of himself he had not met before. A man who could stand in front of thousands without flinching now found his hands shaking when signing consent forms. Someone who had trained for years to control his expressions on camera now struggled to hide his emotions when a doctor walked into the room. For perhaps the first time, he allowed himself to say out loud that there were nights he felt utterly helpless, hearing their strained breathing and knowing he could not fix it with determination alone. Mei Mei shared how her understanding of success had changed. Awards, charts and headlines, once central markers of achievement, had stepped quietly into the background. In their place came softer victories. A stable scan result, a calmer heartbeat, a day without new medication added to the list. The metrics of her life became more personal, more fragile, and infinitely more meaningful. The twins taught them that love is not always loud or triumphant. Sometimes it is a slow, steady choice made every day, to keep showing up even when you are frightened, even when you are tired, and even when no one is watching. They brought into focus what truly mattered, not by demanding it but simply by existing.